I'm Stephen Foskett here at AI Field Day in San Francisco, and we are talking about a lot of AI topics this week. One of the things that came up, though, is the maybe excessively friendly nature of a lot of the AI products that are happening. They're targeted at individual people. They are very pleasant to interact with, or at least they try to be, and they try to be your friend. And it reminds me of, the vending machine experience when when you finally get your dollar bill into the vending machine and it says, "Thank you for your business." It's like, well, you could have thanked me by my business by eating my dollar bill 10 tries ago. But, anyway, AI is kind of like that. Essentially, it's super friendly. It's super kind. I guess that's better than the alternative. We wouldn't want AI to be a jerk to us. But still, AI is not your friend. AI is something different. And that's the topic of this Tech Field Day Roundtable discussion. So to kick this off, let's start by talking about the friendly nature of AI. Who wants to jump in?
I haven't used the chat services for a very long time, roughly the last couple of weeks after reading a book on the topic. And I find it's actually, the interaction is always friendly. When I'm trying to generate some code or something like that, it does provide what looks to be compilable, almost executable code. Doesn't often do what I really want it to do. And sometimes after, talking and chatting with it for quite a while, it can be rather frustrating because it's not doing what needs to be done versus what it thinks needs to be done. But it's very polite. I'll say that much. And I'll stop there.
But my counter to that is, so you could say that exactly about some of my, I'll say former coworkers, just to cover myself, like the exact same thing. So I don't know if maybe one of the things, like friendly, I professional, polite, I might even want to tune it, ask it to be a little bit snarky, which I sometimes do, a little bit witty, whatever. But I think that one of the guardrails I bring into when I think about these things is it's a computer. So I want it to act like all my computer interactions that I've had over the years. And I wonder if the chatbots, the voice assistants, the navigational aids that we have in our cars, just in general, are going to have similar or comparable failings of us, just like humans are. I don't know if you've had a driver, someone, a backseat navigator, giving you all the wrong advice. Take the right here. No, don't go to that. It's going to take longer.
Well, who doesn't love backseat driving?
I know.
I think the user experience model is backwards.
Whoa.
And that is, how many search engines do we all use? Primarily one, right? And we've already done prompt engineering training on how to use that search engine, right? We know how to get good results or acceptable results.
Mostly on the job.
Until they broke it.
Until they break it, which they constantly do. We're living in a world where everything now has a natural language interface, and every one of those has its own engineered prompt system. I don't really want to learn every one of those. I think the opposite model is I would rather have an interface I trust and that knows how I talk to it and has learned how I talk rather than me learning how 50 things talk or need to be talked to get what I need to it. So we're living in this world of individual productivity with Gen AI by adding it to every app and everything that we use, when in fact, they're going to be marginally helpful, except in a few cases where we use them a lot. The rest will be other chatbots that we've thrown to the wayside because we just don't have time to figure out how to make them work. That's my view.
So part of that is the chatbot responses are couched in additional language. Yes, I can do that for you. And I find that plus the way the output is given to me, we're in 2024 now, not 1975. We can do something at more than 20 characters a second. I'd really like it to say, okay, I have your data. You asked for something, here it is, just like a Google search or anything else. You can give me screens at a time, not characters at a time, and not pretend like it's taking you an effort to do this like you're a human. You're not a human. And it's just, I find that really annoying.
I'm going to take two words the first is going to be character, and I think the second was the backseat driver. And how I'll tie that together is, think of the modern world. What's one of the fastest growing industries that we have? And the answer is gaming. And in gaming, you typically, in a multiplayer game or an adventure game, you're going to pick your character. I want to work with this character. But if you also think of the driver one, that's the notion of, do I want a backseat driver or do I want my co-pilot rally driver? So if you've ever seen a rally driver, right?
Yeah.
This is the person that's trying not to get them killed,
Yeah.
and then the person next to them, depending on what part of the world you're in,
Yeah.
they're the one going left, right, and it's to earlier points, it's a succinct set of assistive instructions to make you better as a human machine augmented partnership. And so I think the future of these chat interfaces might be, I want to talk to Tony. I do not want to talk to Sally today, and maybe I want to talk to O'Brien tomorrow. And those personas are just simply not ingrained in us yet. We don't have a glyph representation of a Tony, or pick the emoji. I want to talk to, Star today. I want to talk to Umbrella tomorrow. And that might be how we get there, but I don't know.
I think that's actually really insightful because, just like gaming, I think people would probably want to have different personas that they could take on, maybe at different times of day, at different tasks, at different, different levels of emotional, or experience with the work. Maybe I want a much more friendly and professional chatbot for my HR related questions, and I want a rally co-driver for my software development tasks. Maybe
and you can do all that. You can actually establish a persona for a chatbot if you wish. I want you to be a teacher. I'm a student. I want you to tell me how something works as if I was 10 years old, and it'll give you that sort of description. If you want, to be Tony or Joe or the rally driver or something like that, you can provide that in a prompt context to some extent. But the challenge is, it's not very deep. So, after about, 20 of those discussions, it's gone, 128K number of tokens or whatever. But you want something that has a context that's a lifetime.
But I really don't. I don't want to be friends with my washing machine.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I don't want to take, I don't want to take 12 seconds to explain to my television that it should turn off now. I want to press a button and have it turn off now. I want to change channel and have it change channel like it used to and be there immediately instead of taking 16 seconds to resynchronize with all the digital.
Do you think those choices are going to go away, though? Sorry.
Yeah, I do, and that's the problem. I think because there's so much enthusiasm and hype at the moment for this chat interface, and people saying that natural language interaction with machinery is going to take over and is the future, which we have heard before, that we aren't being given a choice. Like, I can't buy a non-smart TV script.
Yeah.
Right? Because the vendors who build this stuff are not giving us a choice. I cannot buy easily a washing machine that doesn't have Wi-Fi. Right? I don't want to have to install security patches in my cat litter machine.
Well, and to the point, as of 2024, you cannot buy a smartphone that doesn't have an always-on AI assistant.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yes.
In some of them, it's like you can't buy a phone that will actually turn off. Like, it doesn't have a hardware button. You have to make a request to say, could you please potentially, Mr. Capitalism,
Pretend to turn
turn the device that I paid money for and theoretically own? It's like, you don't actually own it anymore. Now I'm having to negotiate my existence with all of the devices around me.
And that's the point that I want to get to next.
But I was going to comment on Ray's thing, which was like ages ago at this point, which is most of the output that I've seen from these still come across like an overly friendly customer service agent. Oh, I'm sorry how can I help you, Mr. Lucchese? Thank you. I rented a car last week, and it had an annoying little thing on the dashboard about checking the rear seat. But it said, please check the rear seat when you turn off the car. it's not like just check the rear seat. It's like, please check the rear seat. Like it's trying to be polite to me. And I mean, the other part of it, to go back to Jack's point, he made the joke in our back channel chat yesterday about it would be great if AI could actually produce output faster than a deck writer could print it.
Yeah. So
And-
exactly. Yeah.
And the third point on what Karen had said is, you can ask an AI chatbot to be witty, but an awful lot of where wit and humor comes from is taking things that humans understand as absurd and putting them together.
Yeah.
And an AI chatbot doesn't have any concept of what humans will find absurd. If it comes up with something funny, it's something that it's repeating.
Or an accident.
Or an accident.
Yeah.
Yes.
This question is, do we want to spend our lives interfacing to chat bots? I don't use chat bots anyway.
We'll get to that. We're getting to that.
Yeah, I think that's a
Okay.
great topic for a roundtable discussion. Let's-
Okay, all right.
So, one of my things is like, this is all reminding me of every sort of innovation that's been forced on us, but I'm going to focus on the safety one. So decades ago, Canada introduced mandatory daytime running lights, headlights, in all cars, mandatory.
Yeah.
And a lot of those discussions, I want to determine when my headlights come on, just like I want to determine when my wipers came on. And then people are like, well, if you turn it over to your car, what if your car can't, the sensor breaks and it doesn't turn on your headlights and you don't know your headlights? And the whole thing is, and I was working there, but living in the US, where like in the state of Texas, having your headlights on in the daylight was against the law. So it's against the law in the US and required in Canada. And I'll tell you, accidents went down in Canada, and finally Texas got around to saying, okay, we're not going to mandate it. And I just wonder how much of that it's a change. You have your preferences. Me, I'm around my house asking my virtual assistant to do everything. I recently bought a smart fan, tower fan, because I had to put it in a place that wasn't going to be accessible for me, and I always lose the clickers for them. And now I want all my fans to have voice commands so that I can be sitting there on the sofa saying, set the tower fan to 6 and turn the LED on to purple. And I could have a
You missed
clicker.
that.
Yeah, it's basically, yes, clap on, clap on.
That's the progression,
Yeah,
push button.
but I agree. I don't think all tower fans will be smart, because now I had to pay an extra $50 for that tower fan.
But the corollary to that is, when you turn the fan on, do you want it to go on, or do you want it to say, yes, I can turn the fan on for you? Turn it on and say, the fan is on. Are you comfortable with that speed setting?
And I can set that in
And
app. That's
right,
my
but-
preference.
and-
I get it.
Justin's point
Yeah.
is that it's for a lot of these things,
I know.
it's no longer an
Yeah,
option.
yeah.
So a variation on that, and it's related to security, but it like guardrails on AI as well. So a lot of the security, we have this idea that it's basically cops and it's a crime thing. So we try to solve all the problems with cops.
Yeah.
It's much more of a public health thing, like whether you should have your lights on or not.
Mhm.
Like, at what point does your personal agency and ability to have control over your
Pivot.
life get outweighed by society's needs? And
Yep.
in the case of a national mandate for that,
Mhm.
that is decided through democratic processes in
theory.
many
Yep.
nations, theoretically.
Mhm.
A lot of these decisions are
Absolutely.
being made for us not through democratic means. But despite how much the tech industry likes to say they want to democratize stuff, we don't get to vote because Google is not a democracy.
Absolutely.
It's an autocracy. It decides what it wants. In fact, and that is the same for all of the corporations that are making the decisions. And they are pushing back real hard on all of the collective decision making that we're trying to say, and say, well, actually, maybe move fast and break things, and we will just put Wi-Fi into everything and create security vulnerabilities that didn't previously exist.
I get that.
Maybe that's not a great idea. So we do have to wrestle with how much personal agency should you have, and how much of this should be collective decision making for the benefit of the society in which you live.
Yeah, and that's where I want to shift gears here. So we spent 15 minutes talking about user interfaces and seemingly attempts at friendly user interfaces, right? Well, there's another angle here to AI is not your friend, and that's what Justin's talking about here. Maybe AI is not your friend.
Oh, no.
Maybe AI is Google's friend. Maybe AI is Ford's friend. I mean, I remember there was a news story about Ford listening to cabin conversations to tailor advertising for the people in the car in real time. Well, that's a great idea.
Every car is
so-
a surveillance platform now.
So certainly we have not yet decided on the user interface for AI. And there is hope, as Ray points out, that we may be able to set different personas, and that would be great. And as was pointed out with Karen's fan, I really don't want my fan to respond. I want it to just
turn
do
it
the
right
thing.
off. Turn
right?
it right off.
But at the same time, then there's the flip side of the fact, as Justin said, that every TV is a smart TV now, which essentially means every TV is a surveillance TV. And one of the reasons that televisions are so inexpensive, I mean, we bought these TVs for Tech Field Day for under $300. One of the reasons that you can buy a TV for under $300 is because there's hundreds of dollars of advertising revenue, theoretically, that the companies are expecting to get by watching what you're watching. And it's the same with your car, and it's the same with your phone, and it's the same with all this other stuff.
Definitely
and that's
with
even
the phone.
more with AI.
Definitely with the phone. Jack and I were driving around a while ago. Jack was driving, and I had my phone in my hand.
You've reiterated Jack was driving a couple times.
And we
a lot of tension in
we
your
pulled up
voice.
behind a Hyundai SUV type thing that didn't say what model it was on the back. And it's like, I didn't know that Hyundai had an SUV model that looked like that. Like, I wonder what it is. And I pulled out my phone and I typed in HY, and it auto-completed to Hyundai. And then I typed in S, and it came up with Sedona immediately.
Which is not an SUV. And I would point out there are not a lot of other words with HY. So humans are
Ivy.
very good at sensing a pattern when the pattern may or may not be present.
Yes.
Was it a Tucson then? I don't recall.
He might have been interested in memory. You don't know, but apparently it does.
It was a little disconcerting, and Facebook has admitted, I believe it was Facebook has admitted that they've listened to audio conversations.
Well,
on average-
there's a lot of legends that
Partner.
companies are listening to your conversations, but it's also not far from the truth. And I don't want to say that's not possible, because it is so possible.
Right.
And for example, smartphones or smart TVs absolutely do take screenshots of what you're watching in order to determine which channel that is, in order to tailor advertising toward you. That is a feature that exists.
But your
So
cable
go
provider
back.
is doing that as well, including tracking which button you clicked on your remote to get to where you are and what time of day it was. And so I get what everyone's saying here. Like, I do think about, all this being collected about me and listening to me. Like, unless I'm in a meeting, all of my virtual assistants get is me talking to my cats, which is embarrassing. But I will say, I'm always going to throw in here that I don't want to go down that hole, but all of these things are so beneficial as assisted devices, accessibility advices. There are people whose quality of life has significantly increased because of how the voice assistants got smarter and the smart things got smarter.
But has it? Because one of the challenges too is that AI models, specifically modern machine learning AI models, actually have more difficulty understanding people with speech challenges or cognitive differences than even previous generation, speech to text models, because of the way that they're trained.
Not every disability, but mobility issues are definitely, the quality of life is increased.
And that's true. Like, I have a friend who uses a wheelchair and became disabled. And so voice assistant, and particularly in hospitals, it does actually give patients a lot more agency, because you can, for example, change the channel if you like. I can't use my hands because they've been burned, or I am temporarily disabled. So there are a lot of benefits to it.
Yes.
The thing that annoys me so much is that is used as cover for all of the abusive behavior, like surveilling everybody all the time. It's like, well, we've made life slightly better for a few people in this way, which we could have done at any other time if we'd put in the effort, but we couldn't be bothered. But we have now. So you need to forgive us for all of the other evil stuff that we're doing.
Yeah. And see, once you need those things, then you don't get those things because the marketing person told you need to have a smart fan that you can ask to turn on and off and set its levels. And I've seen quite a bit of it. The other thing I wanted to bring in, besides accessibility and accommodation for people, is that we're using, as we do in these things, AI as a kind of a thing for generative AI, and we're talking about a lot of consumer uses and everything. But as a cancer survivor myself, I'm glad that we are using AI assisted image evaluations, because we do have data that complementary AI with image readers and radiologists and everything with smarter automation has increased our detectability.
But you gave them permission to take.
No,
those
that's what I'm
images.
saying. So I'm just pointing to the fact that we're using the term AI in a very slice way today, as we do. But all of AI, which has been around for decades, and the things like determining whether a machine generated part is actually meeting tolerances, like machines are definitely better at doing that at scale than humans are.
Yeah, but I think the big difference here is that in both of those cases, there's been permission given to gather that data.
Right.
And the big difference to what Justin is talking about is we haven't given it permission. We had I had a discussion with a couple of the other people here a couple days ago about the data that your car gathers, and your car data gathers, and that data should belong to you.
Yes, it
and
should.
you alone.
Yeah.
That data should not be something that can be sent back to the car company or retrieved from your car without either your permission or lawful.
But I'll say in many countries that's true.
You guys need to move to Europe.
That's what I said, or Canada.
Ownership of your data, then let's move to there. If you don't want smart technology, turn the damn TV off. You don't have to use this TV. You don't have to use the darn phone. You don't have to use the darn computer.
That's exactly what Karen was mentioning, and what I was trying to get across is like these assistive technologies. So that's my choice. Either I have to choose, no, I can't use any technology to improve my life. I have to go and live in a cabin in the woods and cannot participate in modern society. Or I have to accept all of the downsides.
You could turn the Wi-Fi off at the house. You don't actually have to have the smartphone.
I could turn all the electricity to my house. But so I think what you're asking people to do in order to retain things like privacy, in order to have actually some rights, that you have to make that big of a trade-off. That it is it's a false dichotomy. There are privacy-preserving ways of implementing this. There are smart techniques that you can use. These are very intelligent people, or so they keep telling us. So there is a way they could do it, but they have chosen not to. They have chosen to do it this way instead. And I think that we should be encouraging them to make better choices.
I think that will only happen by regulation compliance. It's not going to happen because consumer demand. It's not going to happen because capitalism.
Right.
So my big thing is that, like, I agree with all of you, even though I'm trying to point out that there are all these other things, that it's not just chatbots, right? Yeah. It's not just chatbots that is what we should be talking about here.
And that is one of my great frustrations with this debate about it's AI. So there are all of these different techniques, and lots of them are genuinely useful and great and awesome.
Save lives.
And we never get to talk about them because everything is a bloody chatbot these days.
And I think that's a valid, that's absolutely valid. And I think that there's a lot of nuance here. Like we were talking about with, is your phone listening to you? Maybe not, but it could. Yeah. Can you turn these systems off? Maybe you can and maybe you can't, but that's not really your choice when literally every device you can buy has them built in and turned on by default. Maybe you can and maybe you can't. Frederick?
Right. Yeah, I was going to say is about the friendliness of AI. There are really two sides to it. It's the user interface, how we interact with it. But then the more important piece is the friendliness of the backends. We have to realize that data is currency, right? So for Google and other companies, the data is money. And if you have data that others don't have, you're ahead of the pool. And that's why all of the devices nowadays are being enabled to collect data, even if you don't want to, right? So my wife has a Toyota. It sends information back, even if you don't pay for the remote service.
And it becomes a race to the bottom.
Right. And it gets worse if the police, if the car gets into a traffic accident or is in the neighborhood, they can actually retrieve the data from Toyota. So when we talk about data currency or data as a currency, there has to be regulations, but there's also abuse like any other scheme that involves money, right? Yep. And it's very, very difficult to fix that. The other reason why data is being collected beyond what you think it's going to be used for, it's because AI is still in its innovative stage, which means that if you can collect data that you haven't seen before or a different behavior, you can use that for future products, even to use against you, but it is being collected all the time.
But in reality, that data has been being collected long before ChatGPT. I mean, you look at Google, you look at the advertisements,
Right.
focused and targeting, stuff like that. Every time you use some service for free, you're providing data
Right.
to
You're
that
the
service.
product.
What they
Yep.
do with it, you don't know, but you will care at some point.
And
Right.
that to the point about Europe, that is actually a really interesting point because of this whole, the Facebook situation where they're saying that Facebook has to offer a non-ad targeted version, and Facebook says, well, we literally can't because we would have to charge $50 a month or 50 euros a month because that's literally how much value we're getting out of you. So we cannot. And it's the same, honestly, with a lot of these devices. It's not hard to imagine a time when you will be able to have a free television or even a free car, asterisk, we're going to take all your data.
Free.
They pay you.
And that's not
Yeah.
far-fetched because that's the kind of value that they're getting out of these machines, or a free smartphone.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm sorry, but I'm surprised there isn't already a free Android phone company out there that's taking over the world by storm by stealing all of your data.
What I'm hearing
I don't want to
from
give
Ray,
anybody an idea.
what I'm hearing from Ray there is though that we can't change it because we've always done it this way.
didn't
That's
take it that way.
definitely not true. And a longtime friend of mine is one of the guys that started Google Maps. And when Google acquired them, he was talking about various different things and mentioned that the way captchas are done came about to feed the AI for Google Maps.
I mean, this is
Feed the info for data maps, now called AI.
yeah.
Okay.
But I think from Ray's point of view is that the way I interpret it was it's always kind of been that way. I think at scale it has it because it was too costly at scale to collect all this data, but that we keep creating the same problems by not learning from the prior times where people got out of hand. So the example I use, Tim Hortons. Oh, I mean, a coffee shop in Canada. I didn't mean to say Tim Hortons. Actually, in their mobile app said, we don't keep any data about you, and we don't track your location. And they absolutely were tracking our locations and selling the data. And of course, that's a gross violation of our federal privacy laws. And they were ordered to give all of us a free coffee and a free donut for having our data. They did. This is a true
Well,
story.
in America, you get a free year credit monitor.
Yeah. But the thing is that I do feel the sort of regulatory differences between U.S. stuff where there's virtually no privacy protections except for a few sectors. At least in the rest of the world, we have a right to say, show me all the data you collect about me, not the data types, but the actual data, and the right to be forgotten and all those other things. So we have the privilege of a tiny bit more of access to knowing when our privacy is being violated. What happens when it is, unfortunately, in Canada is virtually nothing. But I also think these other countries putting these features in has led to the Americans being able to take advantage of some of those features because if the vendor had to build it, they sometimes offer certain features to other things.
So if AI was your friend,
Mhm.
would you want a friend that remembers everything about you always?
Mhm.
Would you want a friend that knows when there's a secret, not a secret? Would you want a friend to,
Yeah,
it-
I'd say for maybe, right? But I don't. I agree with you.
But what AI have we come across yet that has any of those
But we're really talking about computers now,
Yeah.
not AI.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Right.
actually, we do have to wrap this up because we've gotten to 30 minutes, but I do want to point that out that a lot of what we're talking about is data
And computers.
and
business.
modern society and the
Capitalism.
failures of capitalism.
But it's
and
the vast failures.
It's not really about AI. But
Yeah.
I guess, to sum up, my concern is that essentially just like adding smart in quotes to everything has increased the availability of data and the opportunity for companies to take advantage of data in ways that are not appropriate. The proliferation of AI is going to further
Absolutely.
go in that direction to the point that, rather than put AI hardware in the television and make that expensive, they're going to have it go all your data immediately go to the cloud for the friendly assistant, and then they'll have all your data, and then they'll do whatever. So it's like, I think that AI pushes us further down a road that we're already traveling, which is, I think, is a thing that I'm hearing from Ray and from Andy and from you and from Justin. I mean, we're already traveling into surveillance society, and AI continues that. Also, it's too darn friendly, and I don't want it to say please and thank you. I
I
just
do.
want it to get the job done. So that